This episode is brought to you by Visit Phoenix. This is the Convene podcast. How entrepreneur Imani Ellis, who speaks at EduCon in a fireside chat, has built a first-of-its-kind community for Black creative professionals by focusing on connection. Designing an intimate conference for 10,000. Written and read by Barbara Palmer, deputy editor of Convene, with excerpts from the original interview with Imani Ellis.
In 2016, Imani Ellis was working in communications for NBC Universal in New York when she started a small gathering of other Black creatives in her one-bedroom Harlem apartment, bringing them together to support one another and to share resources. She wasn't trying to start something, Ellis told radio station WBLS in 2022. She was trying to stop something. I was going to different conferences and networking events, Ellis said, and it didn't really feel like they were curated for creatives of color. That living room group grew into the Creative Collective NYC, and the next year, Ellis launched CultureCon, a gathering that she's described as an ideas conference that prioritizes connection and vulnerability. The inaugural CultureCon, which was held in Brooklyn, attracted 150 attendees. CultureCon 24, also in Brooklyn, drew 10,000 participants, and membership in Creative Collective NYC now numbers in the thousands. Ellis was joined by Kelly Ricker, COO of the Global Technology Industry Association, for a fireside chat at PCMA EduCon. Convene spoke with Ellis about how she's balanced such rapid growth while maintaining a sense of connection, among other topics. One of CultureCon's taglines is, "Big things start small." Could you talk a little bit more about how CultureCon grew out of the creative collective community?
CultureCon was such a natural evolution to the needs of the collective. We were meeting in smaller groups. And what we saw was that there was so much information and inspiration happening that we wanted to take that feeling and bottle it up into the conference space. And so that was the beginning of CultureCon, was bringing a lot of these individual events together. And the mission really was steeped in accessibility and democratizing education and entrepreneurship. And it's just been incredible to see how quickly CultureCon has grown.
How do you balance the smallness and richness of that experience, the genuine nature of the connections, and the ability to create strong relationships as your community and conference grows?
So we like to call it scaling intimacy. And really, what that means is exactly what you just said. It's taking the intimacy of what it feels like when you walk into a party and someone, smiles at you and invites you over and you're able to really enjoy that time together. What does that look like at a conference space? And so for us, it's really been about being really intentional with the entire design of the event.
Okay.
So we're thinking about the consumer before their experience, before they even get there. So we are giving them tools on what to wear, tools on and advice on even the mindset to bring. Like when you're going into a room of 10,000 people, it can be very intimidating. But what if we told you these are already your friends? You just haven't met them yet. And so a lot of the curation of what makes the room feel so special are all these really intimate touches that lead up to the event and then happen during the event.
What advice would you give to community builders about the relationship between in-person and online interaction?
The advice I would give to anyone who's building community online or digitally, is to spend a lot of time literally in community. I think sometimes the pressure can become a little bit of a guessing game. Like, I don't know what the community wants, but the best way is to ask, and that's in person and that's IRL. So we do a lot of social listening on digital channels, which
Okay.
means we're looking for what our community is saying in the comments. We're looking for what they're saying on their own pages, and that's informing how they're feeling, which is really, really important data for when you're building and showing up digitally. Is you can't just show up with what you think people want. You
Mhm.
really want to respond to what they're asking for. And then in person, it's really the same way. And so it's creating, these kind of open formats. And so that can be anything from traditional focus groups
Mhm.
or surveys to just, I love to walk around Culture Con. I walk around like all the other attendees and I'll just stand next to a person and they're like, wait, you're the founder. And I'm like, yeah, do you want to like grab something to eat? Like, I really like to be among the people because communities are living, breathing, ever changing, systems. So
Yeah.
maybe what worked 2 years ago might feel really stale, 2 years later. There is something about just carving out time for research and development. And I think
Okay.
a lot of times what happens is we rush to have the output, but the research and the development is what makes the output so special.
I've seen some research about the craving among younger people for in person events, going to vinyl record rooms where they check their phones at the door and just have the space be in person. Does that resonate with you and your community? Have you seen any similar uptick in people wanting to be together in person?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing about humanity is how cyclical we are.
Yeah.
Like, we're built for community, right? And so I think that this uptick that we're seeing is kind of in response to the huge kind of prioritization of we can do everything, through technology.
Yeah.
But I think what we're finding is that we love being together. And the creative collective, we were born out of a need for togetherness and community. And so it really does excite me when I see Gen Z, there's a trend, like you said, of like the record rooms where they're leaving their phones at the door. There's an uptick of board game clubs and reading clubs and running clubs. My mom chuckles because these are all things that she was doing, when
Uh-huh.
she was in college. She was a part of like a knitting club. And so I think it's what keeps us human is kind of getting back to being together, inspiring each other. And come to find out, it doesn't always have to be a super complex event that brings you joy. It really can just be, being in the presence of people who see you and celebrate you.
I wanted to ask you about your background in strategic communications in the entertainment industry. What advice would you give that you think other people who don't have that background might want to hear or benefit from?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I'm very empathetic to other ideas and I'm very open to other ideas. Working in communications, you really have to understand that there's just so many different ways that people view things, and based on what motivates them and how they view things, it's how they're going to see the world, it's how they're going to show up. And so I think, one thing that people can take from what I've learned in communications is that you want to open yourself up to a lot of perspectives. If everyone on your team and everyone in your community agrees with everything that you say, that might feel convenient in the moment, but it's not a true representation of like collaboration. There needs to be, different thoughts and different opinions for there to be progress. And so
Yes.
just being open to ideas. And sometimes when you're building something and people have different ideas, it can feel like very personal. But I think if you can reframe it and see it as these are all parts of the dialogue, so many like ideas of CultureCon have come from people just giving suggestions. And I love that because it's not the Imani Con, right? It's a community of people and ideas. And I think that's what makes it so strong.
Your community was created for Black creatives as a place for them to come together. And I've read that it's not meant to be limited to people who identify as Black creatives. Could you talk a little bit about what inclusivity means to you and in your events?
I think for me, what I really recognized is that, and this is not an original quote, but it's a quote that I really, really love, which is that even though talent is distributed equally, access is not. And one of the things that we really want to prioritize at the Creative Collective is just making sure that no one in the creative industry is getting left behind, that, we live in a time where some of these words that are not bad words are kind of being made to be bad words. But I think that what I love most about this country is that there are so many voices that contribute to what make this country great. And so Creative Collective, we're always going to stand and listen. We love our allies. Everyone is invited, but who we're centering are going to be those diverse voices. And so we have so many incredible allies who understand the importance of championing creativity. And I think once we're able to really kind of lean into it not being an either or, but a both and, I think that's when we're really going to see, real progress.
Remember to subscribe to the Convene podcast on your favorite listening platform to stay updated with our latest episodes. We want to thank our sponsor, Visit Phoenix. To learn more about them and the intriguing tagline, "The desert made us do it," go to visitphoenix.com/meetings. For further industry insights from the Convene team, head over to pcma.org/convene. My name is Maggie. Stay inspired, keep inspiring, and until next time.